welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home. Hey, my name is Rod McCall.
What's up, everybody? I'm Bryce Runge.
Today's episode is going to be about divorce, but from the perspective or through the lens of our kids.
Yeah, welcome, everybody.
You know, Bryce and I, we've been working with kids for a long time. We've gone through divorce. We've seen the impact that it's had on kids. I'm remarried, and I got stepkids. Bryce, you're remarried, and you know your son's having issues of two families. He's now got stepbrothers and stepsisters, and so we were thinking about some of the issues when we're talking about divorce from an adult or from a parent perspective. But how often do folks consider the impact that divorce can have on kids?
Right. Yeah. I don't think many people do because they're too self-centered, focus on their needs. Right. And so they're not, hey, what does this look like from a lens through a lens from a child? Like, what about their needs?
And you're absolutely right. I know that it was hard for me to think about Eric when I was in those first days, weeks of the divorce. And it is hard to always remember that even though it's you and the ex going through the breakup, the kids are going through it too.
Right.
And so in preparation for today's episode, we actually went and talked to a number of kids who have gone through divorce. Some relatively simple and painless to some that were very hostile. And so we wanted to make this as authentic as we can. I mean, we always do, but to be able to talk from or about the perspective of a kid or through the lens of a child, we wanted to get input from kids who have gone through this. So as we go through today and share with you what we've learned, there's a lot of experience in talking with students over the years and sharing some of their thoughts and opinions, so that maybe if you go through divorce as a parent or as a kid, some of the stuff might be of help to you.
Right. So as we unpack today's episode, keep in mind, like, if you've been through it or you're going through it, like this is all uncharted territory, right? There's a lot of uncertainty. And as an adult, you could probably, most people can handle it. But think of that, like if you're struggling with the uncertainty, it's uncharted territory, like I said. Imagine what a kid's going through. They don't have, I don't know. I'm not going to downplay a child's ability to think, but their mindset, right? They have their perspective is completely different. Like, if it's uncertain for you, how does it feel for the kid?
And that's the big kicker. They see it from, and that's where I really enjoyed talking to the various kids that we did interview before today's episode, getting again some of their input, listening to what was going through their mind as their parents went through divorce. And I guess one of the first things that popped out to me was they want to be able to love both mom and dad.
Right.
That being forced to choose one parent over another, and in fact, that was the number one response that we have gotten from all the ones that we interviewed. Look, I want to love mom and dad equally, and I really hate that you're trying to make me pick.
Right.
And we talked last episode about it's easy as a parent to say, I want you to hate your, the other parent as much as I am currently hating them.
Right.
And that's having a really negative perspective, because the kids are going, look, I have a lot of fond memories.
Right.
Do a lot of cool things. Mom does this. We do these things together, or dad and I do these things together.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's important, just to kind of piggyback up what you just said, is to foster that a healthy relationship with mom or with dad, right? Like you said, don't put it in the kids' court, if you will, and make them choose, right? They want to know that they're loved by both parents, and they want to pour out the love, and they don't want to, well, I can't love you as much because, that pisses mom off, or
makes dad angry.
Right. Or vice versa. Right. And so, foster a healthy relationship with mom and dad. Don't make the child choose.
It's hard. I mean, when I was going through it and when I was in those original days and weeks, I was very angry with my son's mother.
Right.
And I know that I wasn't being very mindful of what he was going through.
Right.
But as I came to that realization, oh my gosh, I was able to try and focus more. Now, his mother could not ever come to that, which led her to engage in a lot of different really bad behaviors. One of the other things that popped up was don't talk about the legal issues.
Right.
I was really surprised by the frequency of the kids we talked to that they said, look, we really don't want to know the minutia of the legal issues, what's going on. And so I think they need to know just enough that, hey, you know what? We are having a 50-50 custody issue. So therefore you're going to spend, this week with mom and then this week with dad. Vacations, we'll work together, but, here's the legal issues.
Mm-hmm.
You share what you have to, but keep it as minimal as necessary.
Really, yeah, really no need to discuss in-depth details of, my lawyer costs this much, or this is what's going on. Anything. What you said, keep it simple, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, this is the schedule. I think it's important that you communicate that. This is how our schedule, however the schedule is going to work. But that's appropriate to discuss that type of, topic, if you will, in regarding legal issues in the schedule. But anything outside of that, there's really no need to discuss that.
And then that, yeah, because again, talking to all these kids, they found it very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That please don't talk to me. I don't really care about, this witness, or, you're trying to gather dirt, or, whatever. Look, you know what? That's between you and dad, or you and mom, and it doesn't affect me.
Right.
So leave me alone. I don't want to hear it.
Right. Yeah. It's, hey, from the lens of a child, it's, I'm heartbroken too. I'm confused. I have all this uncertainty. What is our family going to look like? How's this schedule going to work? I'm hurting.
What about birthday?
Right.
What about Christmas? What about family vacations to grandma and grandpa?
Right. And you, by discussing those legal matters, if you will, that's not helping. You're pouring salt on the wound, basically. You're not fostering a healthy relationship, not only with the spouse, or ex-spouse, with your child too. Because again, going back to, I want to know that I'm loved. Right?
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about all this garbage, because at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's garbage.
And that ties right into one of the other frequently mentioned responses of, don't please stop bad-mouthing mom. Please stop bad-mouthing dad.
Right.
It hurts. And several of them mentioned, look, when you attack mom or you attack dad, you're attacking half of me.
Right.
Because I'm half mom and I'm half dad.
Yeah.
And when you start bad-mouthing what a loser, what an idiot, and all these other bad terms you come up with to express your anger, well, they're a slut because they slept around, or, dad can't keep his pants on because he's, hitting everything in the office.
Right.
Okay. whether that's true or not is immaterial.
Right.
And you want to talk, keep those things, share them with your friends, share them with your, other folks, but not with your kids.
Right. I think when the parent goes to that level and they badmouth the ex-spouse, or the other parent, what a lot of people don't realize is you're driving a wedge in your own relationship with your kid or children.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're driving that wedge, and you're putting up a wall that's going to be hard to tear down because you're affecting your relationship with your kid.
I know my stepkids, when their dad, well, not so much their dad, but their dad's family, would make negative comments about their mom, it made them angry.
Right.
And they would say, look, if this is the way you're going to talk about my mom, I'm out of here.
Right.
And whether it was a birthday party, whether it was a Christmas get-together, didn't really matter. It's, look, you're making me angry.
Mm-hmm.
And they were at least old enough, they were teenagers, they were able to drive, and they said, we're not going to deal with this.
Right.
You either talk nice or don't talk at all.
Right.
And I was really impressed with them by standing up for themselves.
Sure.
I don't know that they were necessarily standing up for their mom, but they were standing up for themselves.
Right.
And so again, it's the unintended consequences.
Yeah.
Because divorce it's not a surgical issue.
Right.
It's very wide in the number of people that are impacted. Including extended family.
Yeah.
So it is easy, but from the words of the kids that we interviewed, please don't talk bad about the other spouse in front of the kids or where they can hear within earshot.
Right. I had to get to the point where, I would stop bringing up the issues with certain family members because they would just encourage that bitterness and that anger to arise. And I stopped sharing that because I'm so tired of this. I can't move forward into a healthier relationship, not only with my son, but with his mom, if I keep hearing and absorbing all this garbage. And that's not what it should be about. Again, I don't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I had to get to a point here's the deal. I don't want you bad-mouthing her. I don't even want to hear it. If you have something to say, go tell it to someone else. I don't want to hear it because that's not beneficial.
No, it's not. And again, our children are hurting as much as we are going through this divorce. So if we're really concerned about our children, then maybe we should do things that make the horribleness of a divorce less so.
Right.
Even if it's a fraction of a bit less, make it less so.
Right. And, it's easy for us to, sit here on this podcast and say, oh, these are the, it's easier said than done.
Yes,
we've been there, but we've done that. We've seen the impact and the unhealthiness of it, and we've heard from kids, and so that's why we want to share this very impactful, beneficial insight, if you will, because that's what it's all about, right?
Exactly. And in order for our kids to be healthy and productive adults, they've got to have a healthy, mentally, physically, spiritually upbringing.
Right.
And that brings to another major topic, and that is stop complaining about money.
Yeah.
I know that I have a sibling that would frequently comment, well, we can't do this because your dad ain't paid child support. Or I've heard other, people comment about, even my own ex-wife commented to our son that, well, unless your dad pays these bills, or his half of the bills, we can't do this, or you can't have that.
Right.
And it really made them feel bad. And then, of course, the kid was going on and saying, well, Dad, it's your fault. If you would pay the money that you owe, then I could have this or I could do that.
Right.
And what was interesting is that some of the times it wasn't even accurate.
Right.
And so, you're using money as a weapon
Yeah.
to hurt the other, your ex-spouse, but the only one that's really getting hurt is your children.
Right. Yeah, I've had my fair share of the money concerns. Being the one that pays child support, that's come up before, and it's just like, are you serious? Again, going back to the legal matters, what benefit does that serve? To discuss the money with your child, and to bring up, well, your mom or your dad didn't pay this or that. Like, you really got to ask yourself, what is this benefiting?
You're absolutely right, and the fact is, it's benefiting them because it's helping the one parent make the other parent look bad.
Right.
And again, trying to make the children choose a side to pick me over them.
Right.
And they don't. None of the children that we talked to said anything about, well, I like that. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Quite the opposite. They get tired of it. It might be okay once in a while that you say this, they can blow it off. But when it's a regular part of a dialogue that you have with your kids, at least the ones we talked to all commented, please. We want to talk about things that are not divorce related if at all possible.
Right. Again, this situation sucks. Don't make it worse.
Yeah.
Right. We've got to change the narrative and let's focus on the family.
Exactly. If you live negative, that negativity spreads.
Negativity breeds negativity.
Yeah, it's a dark cloud.
Yeah,
and it's easy to go there. I've been there, done that.
Right.
And it took a lot of effort to get out of it.
Right. Some of the kids that I've spoken with, a lot of them have. This is all they know. Right. Much like my situation with my son, it's pretty much all he knows. Doesn't make it any less because it's still confusing at times. They go through different seasons in life where they're unsure, or what is this, or what's going on here, and you still have the schedule thing going back and forth. That's confusing.
Yeah.
In and of itself, and so that's been one of the main things. Is it's okay. It kind of sucks going back and forth at sometimes, but we could manage that. But it's when you start talking bad, or you start bringing up issues that don't matter, or that you should keep within your adult spectrum, if you will. That's when things get worse. Again, I think parents, you need to remember, like, hey, this kind of sucks for the kid too, right?
Exactly, and that kind of ties into co-parenting.
Yeah.
You loved each other enough at one point to bring this kid into the world.
Right.
And for better or for worse, you may be going separate directions, but you're going to be tied to the hip with this kid at least until they're 18, most likely for the rest of your life.
Right.
Because, you may graduate them from high school, but, there's life after high school.
Right.
And so you're going to see each other.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to put the kids' needs above your own. And golly, it's hard, but who matters more? You and your anger for your ex-spouse or your child?
Right.
And, remind them, you hear this so many times, but I think it is worth repeating. The divorce isn't the kid's fault. Tell them time and again, look, you know what? I love you.
Right.
And, your mom and I, things happened that were really nobody's fault. And we figured that we weren't good together, but we were good enough to take care of you.
Right. Yeah. I don't, again, appropriately sharing with your kid, right? Hey, this this didn't work out,
Mm-hmm.
right? But what matters is our relationship, and that we're all going to work together, and we're going to create a thriving family dynamic, if you will, regardless if we have two separate homes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's why going back to something we said before that was the kids commented, don't argue. Mom, Dad, don't argue with each other in ways that the kids can hear or be a party to.
right.
You want to yell at each other, through email or
Mhm.
over the phone, but not during an exchange, not at school, not at the sports practice or sports game. That
Right.
the best of your ability, provide a united front.
Yeah.
Kids in a normal, happy, healthy family dynamic are going to pick you apart.
Yeah.
Whether you're divorced or married, doesn't matter. Kids are going to try and find ways to pit you against each other.
Mm-hmm.
And the older they get, the more they do it. And so the better you can hide your animosity for each other and present a united front, whether it's on grades or behavior, online activity, dating, car driving, you name it.
Right. Something that we have, Suzanne and I have really focused on is if we have a disagreement and the kids are home, it's going to be held privately behind doors, especially if it's involving the kids. Now, sometimes we may bicker back and forth or have a disagreement that doesn't really impact them, but we do so respectfully, and we don't yell. We do it respectfully, and the kids always see us come to a resolution because that's one of our values, conflict resolution. So I think it's good for them to see a disagreement, if you will, or have a conversation, but we always resolve it. But if it's a serious conversation, we're going to go behind doors. How do you do that with your ex-spouse? I think we don't, but we see it all the time. I've seen it in parking lots where two people are going at it, and who's sitting in the back car seat, staring at mom and dad going at it. But like you said, do it when the kids aren't. I know it's easier said than done because it's one trigger word and dad gets set off or mom gets set off, and then there you go. There goes the neighborhood, right? It's it's really being mindful of that. The kids are always watching. That is no joke whatsoever.
Oh, no kidding.
They are always watching, and so if you can really focus on having a conversation that's geared towards being respectful and modeling that.
Well,
again, you're modeling the behaviors, and if you want to see those in your kid, then right, so
it comes back to having healthy boundaries.
Yeah,
and it's you keep saying it, and I totally agree with you. We're sitting here saying, well, you should do this. You should do that. I can tell you from personal experience what happened when I did and when I did not.
Right.
When I was able to establish healthy boundaries, good things happened. When I did not have healthy boundaries with my son's mother, horrible things happened.
Yeah.
And so it's from these lessons learned and listening to, the kids that we talk to that, we've had over the years as students, or that we, have, some of these were my nieces. My godson also threw in their point of view on this. And so it made it easier for me to go, aha. It's not, these are things, most of these kids didn't even know each other.
Right.
But yet they had a lot of the same common responses to the questions.
Right.
And the questions were simple. What did your mom and dad do in the divorce that you were glad they did? Things that you wish they hadn't done.
Mm-hmm.
And things you wish they would have done. And so, I mean, and they then came up with laundry list of, comments or examples. And so, that's why, kids really, they want to know just enough about what's going on that impacts them.
Right.
Not what impacts you as a parent, but them as a kid. When am I at mom's? When am I at dad's?
Right. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And I wanted to touch a little more on that united front. A lot of times that's really hard, especially when you're just so angry and bitter.
Oh, no,
and I was there for many years. It was really hard to even be in my son's mom's. That's wordy. My son's mom's. How about my ex-spouse's presence? Just because of the bitterness, and that prevented us from creating this united front and having those civil conversations. Now we got better at times, and it's not like we're 100% on the same page, and we're not. I'd be lying if I said we were, but that's okay, right? Because we have our new lives, if you will.
Sure.
And that's going to happen. But again, if you could focus on our why is our children, right? Our child.
Mm-hmm.
And where do we want to get them, right? We want to promote success. And in order for us to do that, we have to operate with unity. And so if you could get to that level, I mean, think about how much more successful your child will be. And then in turn, the benefit is, hey, you're going to have a healthier relationship with your ex. And I know some of you probably are thinking, you don't even want that right now at all.
No.
Right. And we get that. We've been there. Trust us.
Oh, yeah. I remember you talk about not liking being in her presence. I think it was Braddock's 3rd or 4th birthday that I met you guys down at Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh, yeah.
And...
Could you feel it?
Well, yeah. Well, part of it was you and I were sitting in the corner, bad mouthing her.
Jeez.
But it's we've learned, and we have seen these things that we have done that maybe weren't the best,
right?
And some of the negative repercussions of what we did. And when listening to these other young people that we interviewed make some of the same comments, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, I was wrong in doing that.
Right.
And I don't want to repeat or continuously repeat these kinds of things or behaviors.
Yeah. Yeah. So, with that being said, we'll lead into our next point, which is...
What is your point?
What is my point?
Well, I think one of them is kids don't want to feel different by being in different homes.
Yeah.
And, they're going to be different. Mom's place, dad's place.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe mom's living with dad or living with grandma and grandpa, or dad's living with grandma and grandpa. It's tough. And and their kids are going to naturally say, well, over at mom's, I get to do this. Over at dad's, I get to do that. And that's a part of that united front. But when mom says, well, if you don't like it, go over to dad's.
Right.
Or vice versa. That was one thing that, Eric's mom really did not do very well. And I tried really hard to make sure that Eric had a comfortable place when he came over to my apartment. It wasn't very big, but he had his own room. He had his own bed. I tried to have decorations, but she goes, well, no, you ain't taking that. No, you ain't taking that. Or certain thing. Well, you ain't going to bring clothes. You just get clothes for him because I ain't transporting clothes.
Right.
And it's kind of like, well, what about toys? No, I'm sorry, that toy's only for my house.
Right.
Well, that's okay. Congratulations. You're being a brat.
Right.
You're being a B, and the only person that's hurting is a kid.
Right.
And I mean, Eric he really had toys that, he could only have at his mother's.
Right. I that's the thing that, when people are in this divorce, these blinders, the blinders have probably been there. Now they're just more evident. And it's, your decisions aren't just impacting you. And that's just what you said. And I went through that with Braddock's too. It's like, okay, well, I'm in a pretty poor financial situation right now. What do you mean these clothes can't come, or the toys, or I have a separate home over here too for him.
Mm-hmm.
I have to provide for his needs as well. But anyways, I'm probably going on a tangent.
Well, I'm right there with you because I mean, like you, she was more financially well off. She had the family home. She had the higher paying job.
Right.
Through her BS, she got me fired from my job. So I didn't have a whole lot of money coming in,
Mm-hmm.
and providing just the bare essentials of a place, for Eric and I, and a car and all of that was sucking up most of the money. So there wasn't a lot left over for extras and fun. Well, why can't we go to the movies? I'm going, well, bud, I'm a little shy on cash, but how about you and I go swim at the swim pool at the apartment, or how about we play a game?
Right.
And it was, when, I got this cool thing that, but mommy said I couldn't bring it.
Right. Yeah. When if you're making decisions to do that, if you come to a point where you're making those choices, your thoughts are, how could I hurt my ex-spouse? I'm going to do it this way. Well, wake up. You're hurting the child.
Yeah. It's it's your hatred for your ex is greater than your love for the kid.
Yeah.
And the kids want to be left out of the mess as much as possible. They don't want to be forced to take sides. They don't want to have the, horrible, I guess that's the wrong way of saying it, but they don't want to, they want as much consistency pre-divorce as post-divorce.
Right.
And, I've witnessed way too many times talking to so many, working with the kids as we have over, the last, 15, 20 years, as well as my work with, divorced families all across the country. It is, you keep hearing some common themes. And if we can get past our hatred for our exes, our kids can have much healthier, more full lives.
Right.
And so,
yeah, I think that's the biggest piece. Again, it's a process going back to, the grieving, from the loss through the divorce, which it's a loss, right? It's like a death. And allow yourself to grieve. But when you get over, I don't want to say that, accept the loss. Sorry, I'm going to correct myself. You don't get over it. You accept the loss, and then your child or children. That's your vision, right? What is your vision for your children? And you need to get over that bitterness and the anger and accept the loss so that you can focus on creating a thriving relationship with your children and getting to that point where you're in a healthy relationship with their parent, their mom or their dad, right?
I'm glad you brought up loss, because the loss that you and I as an adult feel, as dads, grieving the loss of the marriage and our understanding and our vision of what family was going to be like, kids are going through the same thing.
Right.
I mean, they're going through the same issues of anger and depression, the stress, the anxiety. Being a kid today in 2021 is way harder than it was when I was growing up, in the 70s and 80s, more recent. But It is. I'm glad I'm not a teenage kid.
Yeah.
And so, going through the divorce, the idea is, how much are we putting focus and interest on the mental and emotional health of the kids? I mean, even if mom and dad are getting along fine, even if the divorce is amicable and mom and dad are co-parenting great, you still got the issue of the kids. And I am a firm believer of having a therapist to talk to. It doesn't have to be for life, but, for a few months to help provide some adjustment.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going through this life change, and again, going back to that uncertainty, what's going on, and then being aware that your child's mental well-being is affected by this, is important. But you can't ever get there if you're focused on yourself, or you're focused on what had happened and how much you hate your ex-spouse. You really need to realize, like, hey, you all of the whole family has just been uprooted, if you will, and you all are going to go through this new transition. But for all involved, you need to focus on your mental well-being, and like you said, it's okay to get help. And I think it's important is if you know that, like, man, I just cannot handle the situation, get help.
If you're a kid listening to our podcast, talk to a school counselor. If you have one that you feel comfortable talking to. If not, go find your favorite teacher,
right,
and talk to them. I got to tell you, I have had dozens of kids over the years come and talk to me, especially more recent over the last few years, as kids know about the work that I do with divorced families, and talk to them and say, hey, look, I'm really struggling, and just, it's okay to vent. Right. I mean, as a school teacher, I can tell you that's kind of what I'm here for. I mean, yeah, my job is to teach you social studies. Okay, that's what they pay me for, but I'm actually here for so many other reasons, and helping you, help you out with whatever's making you angry, frustrated, anxious. Because if you're worried about those things, anything I try and teach you in the classroom, or you, Bryce, teach them in the classroom, is absolutely not going to be effective. You're going to be marking time. You're not actually going to be paying attention and learning, because you're distracted by all these other issues.
Right.
And, I guess you could even go so far as to say, Mom, Dad, can you make me an appointment? I think I need to talk to a therapist to work out some of my issues.
Right.
And, if Mom and Dad, well, what's going on? Well, it's divorce stuff and I'm having a hard time processing. I'd really like to talk to somebody.
Right. Again, to the kids, even to the adults, right? Don't allow the stigma to prevent you from being mentally healthy, right? Or seeking help, if you will. Like Rod said, over the years, I've had so many kids that have crossed my threshold with tears in their eyes, and it's just, hey, what's going on? What's going on? And it's taken some time to get it out while my parents are going through divorce, and it happens all the time. And sadly, we admit that, but that's the reality. The reality is, people get divorced.
And now that we're in this post-COVID America, divorces are at an all-time high.
Yeah.
So it is, for us to make it through, we've got to address the emotional issues of the breakup of what we thought family was going to be.
Right.
And sometimes you're right. When you talk about stigma, the stigma of divorce, the stigma of, the mental health, look, it doesn't mean that you are, loco or cuckoo or whatever.
Right.
It just simply means, look, I need somebody to talk to vent, somebody that can help me kind of just figure stuff out.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times all throughout my life I've refused to allow the words "I need help" come out of my mouth.
Oh, amen.
And I look back, wow, how foolish. But again, I think that stigma, that's how I was raised. We didn't talk about those things. We didn't talk about our feelings. Like, grow an extra layer of skin, or,
toughen up.
I think you and I are both raised with the, sticks and stones will break my bones, right? That era. But that's not the reality. If you're hurting, ask for help. And it's hard. I could tell you from the life that I've lived, that's hard to get to that point. Like, hey, I need help. But, picking up that phone call and calling Rod when I was struggling made all the difference. Or, calling or reaching out to someone else, or sitting down with a coworker at work and having a conversation of what I was going through really helped me as I walked through the whole divorce process.
Because I have learned that the idea, like you were saying, of grow skin, get us, just toughen up, right. Grow basically what happened for me is that I stuffed it all down. Mm-hmm. And I didn't address it, and it began to manifest itself and reappear in ways that were non-productive. Mm-hmm. That, because it's coming out.
Yeah.
And you can either have it done in a way that you can control it, or in a way that it controls you.
Right.
And I mean, this can manifest itself in drug abuse, alcohol abuse, promiscuity, you name it. Right. Very dangerous and, hazardous behaviors, risky behaviors, whether it's an adult or a child, doesn't matter. This stuff's coming out.
Right.
And so I guess that's why Bryce and I are saying, look, if you're having a hard time, it's okay to talk to somebody and say, look, I'm having a hard time with this. To ask for help, because Bryce and I are both here telling you, we didn't really ask for help. Sometimes, well, for me, it wasn't until it was almost too late.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Reaching out for help is so important. If you could look at it and as this and say, I'm gonna seek help because it's gonna help our whole entire family.
Mm-hmm.
By me getting the help that I need is gonna bring more healthiness, more awareness, if you will, to our situation and help us grow in a healthier way. So yeah, again, it's easier said than done because we both have been there, but we both encourage you to seek help, right? Don't go it alone, right? But like we said, help from a bottle of Jack is not your answer. Okay, although it tastes good coming back, the stuff that comes out of your mouth is really negative for all involved. So seek the help from a professional, or even friends, or like I said, I called Rod or other friends and whatnot. I'm kind of rambling on at this point, but the point is, don't go it alone. Get help. It's okay to get help.
So on that note, we're going to call it a day. We sure appreciate y'all tuning in and listening to us. Again, divorce really sucks. Whether you're as an adult or as a kid, whether you're the parent or, the brother, the sister, the aunt, the uncle, the cousin, the grandparent, when you're involved in divorce, it just flat out sucks. So hopefully some of the suggestions that we have shared with you, or the ideas that we have shared with you, can hit home and make an impact and help you have a home, sweet home.
All right, stay tuned. Next episode, we're going to carry on with our conversation with divorce, but with a special guest. And tune in. We'll catch you next time.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.